Hey everyone, Paul here from freeyounow.com, and this is Driving with Paul, episode number 9. So in my last episode, in episode number 8, I talked about if you're struggling in an area of your life, chances are that what's holding you back is a limiting belief that you may have, or false beliefs that you may have related to that area of your life. And I talked about how if you have limiting beliefs, which most of us look at it as, as legitimate reasons, right? Like, let's say that you want to lose weight and you say, oh, I can't lose weight because I just don't have the time to exercise. And then our belief is that that's a legitimate reason. No, it's really, I don't have the time to exercise. That's what we believe, right? Well, those kind of limiting beliefs can hold you back. And I talked about how you can use the power of specificity by getting very specific with the limiting belief. And when you do that, I talked about how the limiting belief will either just disappear on its own, or a solution may present itself that will help you overcome that challenge, or that thing that's holding you back from achieving your goal. Now, there's one more thing I want to add to, in this episode. I want to add to that. I want to add to the concept of being specific. And that is related to limiting beliefs that you have in your mind, consciously or subconsciously, that are not even your limiting beliefs. They were basically limiting beliefs that someone else came to the conclusion of, and you heard them say it, and you believed them, and so you took their limiting belief onto your shoulders. And again, one of the ways that you can overcome that is by taking the time to be more specific with whatever limiting belief that you're dealing with. So let me give you an example, because it's kind of hard to explain it without an example. So the other day I was looking at, I was doing some research on protein bars, and I was analyzing some of the different types of protein bars out there, and what kind of ingredients they have, what their profile is in terms of like how much protein is in there, how many carbs, how much fats, what kind of ingredients, etc. Right? And on one of the forums, I was looking at one specific brand of a protein bar, and it doesn't matter which one it was, but one of the people on a person on one of the forums posted a listing. Someone asked about that specific bar. They said, hey, I'm looking into this particular protein bar. It looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Right? And then somebody replied to that saying, oh, don't eat that bar. It's really bad for you because it has this ingredient in it. And they listed whatever that ingredient was. And again, it doesn't really matter what that ingredient is, but they said it has this ingredient in it. Don't eat it. It's bad for you. It'll screw up your body and your insulin levels. Here's a study that proves that, right? And they put a link there talking about this, or they put a link to a study that they're referring to. And then the next people below that posted a reply saying, oh my God, thank you for letting me know. I thought this was a healthy bar. Thanks for letting me know. I'm going to stay away from this. Next person put a reply. Oh my God, I had no idea that this was bad for you. Thanks for letting us know. I'm not going to eat this crap. Right? And there's all these posts, replies from people saying, oh yeah, I'm staying away from this, staying away from this, staying away from this. Right? So that's an example of somebody asking for an opinion from somebody else, getting an opinion, right, where they're told, oh no, this is bad for you, don't eat this type of protein bar because it has this ingredient in it. So the person who responded to that question, the person who posted that message saying don't eat this bar, they supposedly, like we assume based on what they're posting, we make the assumption that they read a bunch of studies, scientific studies, analyzed those studies, compared the ingredients, and then formed an unbiased opinion on whether this particular protein bar is good for you or not. That's the assumption that people make when they see a post like that. But the reality of it is that very few people do that. What most people do is they go on Google and they type in a question, and then they look at a couple of opinions, the first 5 or 6 things that pop up, and then they regurgitate what they so-called researched, and they just spew opinions out without really fact-checking anything that they said. So what I did is I looked at that and I said, oh really? Well, this is kind of surprising. I thought this was a pretty good protein bar, but this person is saying that it has this specific ingredient in it and that it's bad for you. Okay, let me take a look at this study that they're referencing. So I went and I looked at the study, and I actually read through the summary of the study to see what they are saying in the study. And the specific ingredient that they were talking about in the study was, again, it doesn't matter what the ingredient was, but they were showing that, or what the study found is that if in lab rats, and then they obviously, gave the human equivalent of that. So the human equivalent would be if a person consumed more than 10,000 milligrams of this particular food additive or whatever, this particular ingredient, if they consumed over 10,000 milligrams of it per day for an extended period of time, like a number of years or something, it could cause a response in their insulin levels. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Doesn't mean that the insulin levels going up or down are a bad thing. They're just saying that's what the study found. The study found that this particular thing affects insulin levels when taken in those large quantities, right? Well, pretty much any kind of food that you eat is going to affect your insulin levels, and it's not a bad thing. Your insulin can go up, your insulin can go down, depending what your body needs, right? So it's not that the study was saying, oh, it's this thing will cause your insulin levels to go up and it's bad for you, or nor did it say, oh, it's going to cause the insulin levels to go up, which is good for you. It was just saying, it was just reporting an unbiased thing. It was a report that said, hey, look, we studied this ingredient in lab rats. We figured out that based on this stuff, here's what would happen. If you eat this much, it's going to cause this insulin response. That's it. That's all it said. It didn't say if it's a good thing or a bad thing or if it's healthy or not healthy, whatever. It just said that. And this person interpreted that as being a bad thing. Now, chances are they probably didn't even read the study. They probably didn't even read the summary of the study. All they probably did is found someone else who had the same opinion and then copy and pasted the link to the study, pretending like they actually read it, right? And the interesting thing was, I looked at the bar that they were referencing, right? I looked at the ingredient list on that protein bar that they were saying that, has that ingredient in it. And the company clearly marked it, and they said that that bar has 1 milligram of that ingredient in it, okay? So basically, in order for this ingredient to have any effect on the body, or this insulin effect or whatever it is, you'd have to consume 10,000 milligrams, and this bar had 1 milligram. So you'd have to eat 10,000 of these protein bars per day, every single day for like a year, and it would cause some kind of insulin response, right? Well, meaning as soon as you eat the bar, it would probably do it, but I guess in larger quantities over time, it has a bigger effect or something like that, right? But my point is that no one in their right mind is going to eat, I don't even think it's possible to eat 10,000 protein bars in one day. And if you did, your insulin slightly going up or down or whatever the reports showed was probably the least of your worries. Okay, so my point with this is that this person was basically full of crap. They didn't read the study. They didn't understand the study if they did read it. They didn't look at the quantities that they were referencing, right? And it was like, oh, well, this product has this ingredient in it, so it must be bad for you. Stay away from it, right? And then everyone starts spreading the news that, oh, I heard this is bad for you. Oh my God, I heard that this is bad for you. Well, it's kind of like me saying, look, you should go drink a glass of water because it's healthy for you. And go, no, don't drink water. Because I read a study that if you drink 10,000 glasses of water in a day, you might die, which could happen. There is such a thing as water poisoning. People have actually died from drinking too much water too quickly, okay? Anything, if you take it like that, if you take 10,000 glasses of water and try to drink them at the same time, you'll probably die. Like, everything has to be, you have to understand the quantities, you have to understand what is being referenced, right? And this is where a lot of people make mistakes. It doesn't matter what area. You know, I'm just giving an example with this protein bar. This is something that's fresh in my mind. It happened the other day. I was looking at it. But this happens all the time. You hear people generalize and make statements that mean nothing. It's like they say, oh, this product is, this product is bad for you because they use chemicals. Okay, what does that mean? What chemicals do they use? How much of that chemical do they use? Or saying, oh, well, I heard blogging is hard. Okay, what does that even mean? What's hard about blogging, right? Like, yeah, I don't want to blog because someone told me it's hard. That's a very generalized statement, and it means nothing. However, to our subconscious mind, it means everything, because anytime you say a general statement like that, what your mind remembers, it doesn't remember the statement, because the statement means nothing. Like, what does that mean, blogging is hard? Like, what is it? Physically hard for you to sit in front of a keyboard and type on a keyboard? Like, what's hard about blogging, right? Now, I'm not saying blogging is easy. What I'm saying is that statement means nothing. It's so general, right? It's like saying, well, breathing is hard. What does that mean, right? But what happens is when you make a statement like that, or somebody says a statement like that, and if we absorb that belief, because it's generic, our mind forms a feeling associated with it. So it's like, if you did something, let's say you went to a fitness boot camp, and it was really, really hard to go through that process, and it was like a 2-hour boot camp session of a fitness thing, whatever, and you puked on yourself, and it was just the most horrible thing you ever went through, right? And then somebody asked you, how was it, right? They're like, oh, I heard you went to that bootcamp thing. How was it? And you say, oh my God, it was hard, man. Holy crap, it was hard, right? So now what's happening is your mind creates an emotional feeling that associates the word, when something is hard, with that experience that you had. So now when someone else says something else is hard, like, hey, no, I'm not going to do blogging because I heard blogging is hard, you don't think of it, but your mind associates the level of difficulty of writing a blog post with the same thing as going to this fitness boot camp for 2 hours and puking all over yourself and just like having the worst experience of your life. Because if you say, hey, this is hard and this is hard, your mind doesn't know the difference. What do you mean, right? And you're accepting someone else's limitations, you're accepting someone else's beliefs, generic beliefs around a specific thing. So the way to overcome this is that when you listen to people talk, you can learn from everybody, and you should really be listening to people who have what you want, who have achieved level of success in an area of life that you want, and who have been where you are right now, right? But when you're listening to people, whether you're taking advice from somebody that you know, like a mentor or whatever, or if you're just listening to one of your friends talking about something, or your parents or your siblings or whatever, coworkers, your boss, whoever, your uncle, doesn't matter who's saying what. The point is, whenever you're listening to somebody, you should always kind of have this little filter in your mind, and listen for things that they say that are generic, that are like very generalized, where they're just kind of like, well, yeah, building a website is hard, building an online business is hard, building a blog is hard, or you know, where they're basically just saying something that, oh, I heard this is not good for you. What does that even mean? It's not good for you. How is it not good for you? Oh, well, because it's high in salt. Oh, okay. Well, now you're getting a little bit specific, right? Oh, okay. Well, how much salt does it have? Oh, it's got 100 milligrams of salt. Was that a lot? Oh, well, I heard it is. Well, is it? Oh, I don't know. Right? Most people don't even know. They're just saying stuff that they heard. They're repeating. They're like parrots, right? They're repeating it, and you're allowing that to come into your mind, and you're allowing it to slow you down. So you have your own limiting beliefs, and if you become specific and you get specific on them, it'll help you to overcome them. But you also have other people's limiting beliefs that are swimming around in your mind that you don't even realize you have, right? And one of the ways to get rid of that, to clear that out, is again to focus on the specifics. Research stuff, take the time to research it and find out the specifics about these things. So if you're thinking about something, you're like for example with me in that bar, I was looking at this protein bar and I'm like, should I eat this or not? Is this a good bar? Should I buy this? Well, let me look at it. And I went online, I looked at a couple things, I looked at a couple of opinions, and someone said, oh no, this thing is bad because it has this ingredient. Okay, I could just say, yep, okay, this thing is bad, I'm not going to eat it and throw it away, right? But then I'm allowing someone else's limited opinion, uneducated opinion, affect my buying decision for that product. And I might end up going with another protein bar that is even worse than this one. You know what I mean? And again, this is not about, you know, eating protein bars or not, or discussing whether they're good for you or not. There's nothing to do with that. What I'm saying is just an example of not allowing someone else's generalized, limiting belief opinions to affect your results in life. So just be aware of that. And when you encounter some of this stuff, like, oh, well, I heard from this person that such and such is such and such, ask yourself for a little bit more specifics on that, and do a little bit of research and find out, right? Find out what you know, verify their research, verify what they said, right? If they say, oh, well, that'll never work, really? Has it ever worked for somebody? It's like, oh yeah, well, I was gonna do this, but I heard that never works, or I heard that doesn't work. Okay. Where did they hear that from, right? Do your own research and find out what, you know, what data are they basing their decisions on, and see if you can find flaws in their thinking. And what I find a lot of times is that and I mean, when I say majority, I mean like 90-95% of the time when you hear someone else's opinion on stuff, it's almost always flawed. Like 90% to 95% of the time when people say stuff, their opinions and their beliefs around a subject are flawed. Especially if you're talking to somebody who has not produced results in that area of their life, right? And when you get around people who have produced results in that area, it's like they have a completely different set of beliefs that just, you're like, what the heck? How do they, you know, why are they thinking differently, right? I'll give you guys one more example and I'll finish off this video here. So I was watching a video from a guy who he sells like ebooks on fitness and bodybuilding and weightlifting and that kind of stuff. And he's put on, I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was like, I think he put on, when he first started bodybuilding, he put on like 40 pounds of muscle. Was it 40? No, it wasn't 40. I don't know, but the number doesn't matter. He put on like, whatever, let's say it's 20 pounds of muscle in, I don't know, 3 weeks or something, or 4 weeks, whatever the number is. Doesn't really matter what the numbers are. I can't remember the exact numbers, but my point is, he went out, he did this, he put on this muscle, and after he did it, people asked him, you know, when he started telling people, he started talking to other bodybuilders. He's like, hey, this is what I've done, what I've accomplished. Is this good or is this bad? Like, you know, am I doing well? Like, is this normal? Like, should I be putting on more muscle faster? And they looked at him and they're like, what? There's no freaking way you put on that much muscle in that short period of time. He's like, no, I did. And they're like, no, that's impossible. And he's like, no, I just did it. Like, look, here's a picture of me at this. This is how much I weighed. This is how much I weigh right now. And look at my physique or whatever. And he put on this muscle in this period of time. The thing is, most of the people that were saying that he couldn't have done that, they were all living under a belief that they absorbed from somebody else that told them that it's impossible to accomplish that feat, right? So for example, if somebody tells you that it's impossible to put on more than 10 pounds of muscle in a year, right, and you believe them, then your actions, your thoughts, your actions, and the way that your body functions is going to prove that that's true. It's going to prove and say, look, yeah, you're right. It is impossible to put on more than 10 pounds of muscle in a year, right? And it will be a limiting belief that will hold for you. It'll hold true for you. And then let's say you do try to put on more muscle than that, and a year goes by and you've only been able to put on that muscle because maybe you put on a little bit of muscle, then you got injured, and then you know, and then at the end of the year, you look at it, yeah, you're right, I only did put on 10 pounds of muscle, so it must be impossible to put on more. Now you've kind of taken someone else's limitation. Not only have you absorbed it, but you've also confirmed it to be a true limitation, and now it has become your own limitation, which is really bad because now you kind of have an experience that proves that it's right. And unless you can prove to yourself otherwise by breaking through that limitation, you'll always have that limiting belief, and then you'll go and spread it to somebody else, right? So sometimes you have these guys who come into an industry where they don't know that there are certain limitations, and they'll just go and do something that no one else has been able to do before, because their thinking is different, right? I mean, look at somebody like Tesla coming in, and all these companies are struggling to make an electric car, and Tesla comes in and says, oh, I'm just going to make an electric car. I mean, I don't know the full story, but it just seems to me like he came from a totally different industry. He created PayPal, right? From a technology industry, an engineering industry. He didn't come from the traditional car industry. He's like, oh, I'm going to get in the car industry. I'm going to create an electric car. And he did it. And now it's like all these companies are, hey, well, if he did it, then maybe we can do it too, right? Or, you know, the guy who ran the first guy to run the 4-minute mile, everyone was saying, no, the human body, the scientists agreed, the human body is anatomically designed to, in a way that makes it impossible for you to run faster, to run a 4-minute mile, right? It's impossible. They analyzed all the human muscles and all the joints and everything, and all the scientists decided, hey, no, you know, that's a limitation of the human body. It's impossible for that to happen, until somebody did it. They ran a 4-minute mile, they broke the 4-minute mile barrier, and then it's like, oh, well, maybe we did some miscalculations, right? And then, since then, it's like thousands, if not millions of people have been able to run a 4-minute mile, because that limitation was broken in the minds of people, that limiting belief, okay? So, just be careful what limiting beliefs, first of all, you're creating for yourself, but secondly, what limiting beliefs are you accepting from other people? And the way to get over them, like I mentioned in the first video, you can use technologies like Psych-K. Affirmations work for some people, they don't work for everybody. You can use, so, you know, those are two options. There are a few other modalities that you can try to use to get rid of limiting beliefs. But a simple way for you to start going through that process that doesn't cost anything, just a little bit of time, is to sit down, write these things out, ask yourself where you're struggling in your life, and ask yourself why you're struggling, what are the reasons, write them down, and then you'll notice that some of these reasons are not even yours. It's kind of like, oh, well, my dad said that, blah, 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 or my mom used to tell me that, blah, 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 or my friend told me that, such and such, or my friend who was doing the same thing, he said that it's really hard to do that because of blah, 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 right? Write down these limitations and these limiting beliefs that are stalling you down or stopping you, and then see if you can get more specific on them. Find out more details of what was meant by the statements that these people made. And I think you'll surprise yourself, because when you start to dig through and get more specific on some of these statements, you'll notice that the truth behind them starts to fall apart. You say, well, hold on a second. This doesn't make sense. You know, your own mind, your own intuition will start to see through the BS that some of these limiting beliefs have. Not all of them. I'm not saying everything is not true, but I'm just saying list them off, and as you get more specific on some of them, you're going to notice that, hey, I don't know if I even believe this anymore, because look at this. He said that such and such is not, you know, this will never work, or that person over there used to tell me such and such, but that's not what my life has shown me, right? That's not what you know, that's not what I see or what I perceive in my life. Okay, so specificity, guys, it's a very simple thing. It's one of those things that people go, oh yeah, well, you know, I heard that before, or yeah, sounds cool, and then they never do it. Try it out. Just pick one limiting belief. Just pick something. Pick something that you believe to be true right now, one thing, write it down, and then go research it. Go find more specifics about that thing and find out, you know, whatever it is, and you'll start to see that, hey, you know what, maybe this limiting belief is not as true as I thought it would, you know, it was before. All right? So that's it for this video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.